Boys. Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by Replenishing Care and Technologies. I am your co-host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great, Mike. How about you?
All right. And we didn't know this guy was going to be on, but he just kind of popped up. So help me welcome Sam McGinnis to the show. How you doing, Sam?
I'm doing pretty good. I thought maybe I texted you, but apparently not.
Wrong place. We're all dropping. All right. Sam McGinnis, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right. What's the shirt today, Sam?
I
can't
shirt
tell.
My brother got me a while ago. It's a Craftsman shirt.
I still don't know what that is. All right.
I don't know what it is either. It's my brother's.
All right. We probably shouldn't wear it if you don't know what it is. Today, we're going to talk about the NFC South. And during the past offseason, the entire NFC South experienced a free agency signing that will be remembered for years to come. That specific signing that we are referring to here is, of course, Tom Brady, who packed his bags in New England, headed south to join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The news completely shocked the sports world as Brady ended his 20-year stint with the New England Patriots. In addition, he joined a team nobody ever dreamed he would ever play for. With this historic signing, the Bucs have shaken up a division that seemed to be owned by the New Orleans Saints. And with yesterday's signing with Leonard Fournette, and what they've already got with Rob Gronkowski coming out of retirement, all of a sudden, this is not just a one-horse race, Sam Teets.
No, not at all. I think, actually, if you asked me today who would win the division, I'd lean a little bit towards Buccaneers, honestly, just because I feel like picking the Saints is the easy way out. I think the Buccaneers, despite not having the longest offseason of prep, I think they're the most dangerous team within this entire division.
Now, Sam McGinnis is a guy, when this Tom Brady signing happened, mocked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, said Brady was too old and this could never work out. Have you changed your mind yet, McGinnis?
Very much so, unfortunately. Reality can hurt sometimes, but sometimes you just got to accept what it is. Let's look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right before they got Tom Brady. They had two fantastic wide receivers, and what's the missing piece? Well, Jameis Winston threw 30 touchdowns and threw 30 interceptions. The missing piece there is a quarterback, and Tom Brady fills that hole.
Well, we'll get to the Bucs first. We're going to start off with the Saints, but also the other hole was a running back, which was filled by Leonard Fournette a couple days ago. But when we look at the New Orleans Saints, this is a team that's dominated this division. They've been great in the regular season, but come postseason time, they tend to tank, so to speak. And this was a strange offseason. They re-signed Brees to a 2-year, $50 million contract at age 41. They signed Jameis Winston to come in and back him up. The main acquisition here, I think, was Ted Ginn left. They replaced Ted Ginn with Emmanuel Sanders. So I think it's possible when you team up Sanders and Thomas that this team got better in the offseason also, Sam Teets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, because you look at what they did. Look at what San Francisco did last year when they traded for Emmanuel Sanders. Before getting Sanders, the passing game was kind of struggling and wasn't really doing much. When you paired Sanders with Deebo Samuel, suddenly passing game was much better for San Francisco. I think they're doing the same thing in New Orleans, where obviously Michael Thomas was already a stud player, but now you're pairing him with someone else. It kind of opens up more opportunities for both receivers and for the passing game in general.
Now, on the defensive side, Sam McGinnis, the Saints went out and got former Philadelphia Eagles star safety Malcolm Jenkins, who replaced Von Bell, who ended up going to Cincinnati. So you've got an excellent secondary, Marcus Williams, Marshawn Lattimore, Janoris Jenkins, and now Malcolm Jenkins. Stinzy 4-3 defense. The Saints were ranked 13th overall on defense last year. How big of an impact will Malcolm Jenkins have on this defense?
I think he can have a big one. I think the defense is already pretty good. I think they need to keep that going. I'm actually most worried for the Saints as a whole, actually, about Drew Brees. It seems like he's aging a lot worse than Tom Brady has, and so that's where my concern comes in, is with him more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think what we've seen over the last few years, Sam Teets, is the fact that Drew Brees looks great up until a certain point, and it kind of drops off at the end of the season, which could be age.
Yeah, and he had an opportunity to prove it wasn't last year because he missed 5 games during the middle of the season. So it wasn't like he was going for the full 16 weeks. He had an opportunity to rest up, get better, and hopefully be fully at his prime by the end of the year. And really, when he got to the playoffs, he just wasn't there. It wasn't the same Drew Brees we're expecting. And I agree. I think this is either some kind of mental bug at this point because they've lost so many close games in the playoffs, or it is just age. You get through a full season, and your body's no longer able to go 18 to 19 weeks and be able to compete like that.
And I think the other thing is, can Alvin Kamara be healthy all season? Will he be productive? Because if he is, that makes this Saints team pretty much one of the most complete teams in football, Sam McGinnis.
Well, yeah, and it's especially with getting more receivers, again, that's going to help Drew Brees. You're going to want to put yourself in a position where you're going to want to help yourself age as least as possible. And I think Tom Brady actually shows how to do this much better. And that's a great reason he went to Tampa Bay. But yeah, it's going to be interesting what we see. If it's going to be a failure, I think it might be on Drew Brees at this point.
All right, so let's transition to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, the main signing of the Bucs all season was Brady, but Tampa didn't stop there. Of course, they just added Leonard Fournette. They got Rob Gronkowski out of retirement to rejoin his favorite quarterback. And this is a team, I mean, Gronkowski will join a room of tight ends that include O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. You've got Chris Godwin, and you've got Mike Evans. I think Godwin may have the bigger season here, Sam Teets, just because I think Godwin fits better with Tom Brady.
No, I agree with you. I think Mike Evans is a little bit stretching a little bit of what Brady's limitations are at this point during his career because of his arm strength, because of his age. But at the same point, having a big target like Mike Evans is never a problem. You also have Tyler Johnson, who's a rookie. I like him quite a bit. He's out of Minnesota. I think he'll have a larger impact than what people are saying at this point. And I think they have the best tight end core in the NFL. So you got all these weapons for Brady. You got some running backs who might be able to come out of the backfield, like Keyshawn Vaughn and LaShawn McCoy. The biggest question for Tampa Bay is the offensive line, but I don't think it's going to be as big a problem as some people are saying.
Well, and I think a lot of that problem was taken care of in the draft when Iowa star offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs fell into their lap, the number 14th pick overall, Sam McGinnis. And I think when you look at Wirfs added to this is a better offensive line than what Brady had in New England last year.
Well, and the thing you have to remember with all of this is Brady. Do you think Brady didn't think about this when he went to Tampa Bay? You think he wasn't thinking, well, I probably want a decent offensive line. So you're getting your positive vote from Tom Brady there, and he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. So it's not like he didn't think about this before he came to Tampa Bay.
Well, and I think when we look at this with the abbreviated offseason, no OTAs really to speak of except for Zoom meetings, Sam Teets. The question is how quickly do these pieces fit together? But I think also when the pieces are Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette's a veteran, and he's a running back also. I mean, he basically handing the ball and he runs. But with Tom Brady and these wide receivers, I still think the fact that it's Tom Brady, I don't think that's as big a concern as almost anybody else would be going to any team.
Yeah, no, and Tom, like I said, Tom Brady is really smart. He gets the game of football. And even if he doesn't have the full playbook down, it's still Tom Brady and all the pieces around him. It's just too talented to have those limitations. And Brady was holding off-season workouts before the NFL even started their training camp or anything like that. He was working out with the receivers, with the tight ends. So he was getting to know these guys. So I think there's not going to be a real large transition for Brady. I think he's ready to go in and play week one.
All right, we're going to go ahead and transition to the Atlanta Falcons. Last year, the Falcons had two very different parts of their season. To start the year off, they had a 1-7 record. They couldn't get anything going on top of the dreadful start. There were rumors going around on whether or not they would fire head coach Dan Quinn. Then the bye week hit. In their last 8 games, they went 6-2. So the big question here is, Sam Teets, which part of this record was more real? The 1-7 and a bad start, or the 6-2 ending?
I'm going to go with the 1-7 bad start just because I think it's really – I mean, that's really what shows you what you are. I think you can get hot down the stretch. We've seen teams do that before. But if you can't open the season well, I don't have faith in you to be able to continue. And I don't think Dan Quinn's going to finish this year. I think Dan Quinn's going to be fired by week 8, even though I know he's got a good relationship with the owner. I see plenty of pieces in Atlanta, especially in the offense side of the ball, to succeed. I just don't see the coaching staff and everything working out there.
Yeah, when you look at the offseason, it was kind of like a revolving door in terms of free agents. Some players who were either released or who left on their own included Devonta Freeman, Vic Beasley, Austin Hooper, Desmond Trufant, and those are 4 pretty big pieces to lose. And the Falcons didn't come out of free agency empty-handed. They added some key pieces like Todd Gurley, Dante Fowler, and Hayden Hurst. But my question is, to me, when I look at this, Sam McGinnis, it looks like they lost more than they gained.
Well, and even if they didn't, I just can't trust them. We watched them choke away the Super Bowl, and it just kind of regressed past that point. I see them as kind of meh. The same thing this year. I'm with Sam Teets on the 1-7 thing. If I can't trust a team, I'm not really sure it matters how much talent they have, whether that's just playoff loss or otherwise. But I guess you're gonna have to keep going with this one.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I can handle this. Let me ask you this: how do you think Matt Ryan compares to Drew Brees and Tom Brady at this point?
See, that's tough. Is Matt Ryan younger or around the same age?
Oh yeah, Matt Younger's Ryan younger than Brees and Brady at this point. He's by 6. It's like by 6 years almost at this point.
If some stuff changes, he might have some better attempts down the stretch. But I think as for Drew Brees, he's starting to fall off. So I might put him ahead of Drew Brees at this point, which hurts to say. But yeah, I think Tom Brady might be the best, and then you've got Matt Ryan.
What about Teddy Bridgewater and the Carolina Panthers? The Panthers are coming off the Panthers are coming off a rough 2019 season. They went 5-11. Cam Newton's now gone. He's in New England. They've got Kyle Allen. They've got Teddy Bridgewater now. They got Christian McCaffrey. So they'll probably win 4 or 5 games just with Christian McCaffrey alone. But you have a new head coach. Ron Rivera was fired. Is there any hope for the Panthers right now, Sam McGinnis?
I think with the Panthers, you might want to be thinking long-term. I think right now, even if you could do something right now, it might not be the time because you've got 2 heavyweights in your division. So I'd definitely be thinking for the long-term for Carolina right now.
Yeah, with Newton and Allen gone, Sam Teets, you got Teddy Bridgewater. My question is this. Teddy Bridgewater was 5-0 with that Saints offense and defense last year. This is not the Saints offense and defense.
No, it's absolutely not. The offensive line is certainly questionable. I mean, they spent all those draft picks on defense this year, but I don't see that getting much better. I think they made some improvements, but it's not. I mean, it's not a fantastic defense. And Bridgewater, let's put it this way: Bridgewater has not started more than 6 games since 2015. So it's been half a decade since we've seen him play an extended period of time during the season. I don't think Bridgewater is worth all the money he got in the contract. I think Carolina might regret giving him as much money as they did. And I don't see Carolina performing well this year. I don't think Matt Rule's going to work out as a coach there.
Well, I think also the offense he wants to put in is going to take a while. But I think he's probably going to get at least 3 years because they're basically rebuilding this team from the start, Sam Teets.
Yeah, the only established piece they have right there is Christian McCaffrey. That's really it. They have some other veterans around like Russell Okung, Kawan Short, some guys who are good, but they're past their prime. I think they'll look to get rid of those guys in the next year or two. So really, this is bare bottom for Carolina. There are only a couple teams worse than them. Maybe Washington and Jacksonville are worse off, but Carolina's right down there.
You still there? All right. I thought it dropped again. We're having internet issues again. McGinnis, you didn't pay our internet bill again, did you?
For all 3 of us? No.
Yeah, well, you're supposed to. So when we look at this, I think this is basically picking who's first or second. And basically it's picking who's first or who's last because I think this is a 2-team race in each section. So we'll start off with McGinnis. McGinnis, who wins this division?
I think Tampa Bay does. Maybe 11 or 12 wins. They could go up to 13, but we'll see about that one.
So what you're saying is a couple months ago when you mocked me on this show about Tampa Bay, you've now changed your mind and completely agree with me.
I am frustrated about reality, but sometimes you got to deal with that.
So, Sam Teets knows how that is. So
yeah,
I've never ever
reality. We're just living it.
I agree with you guys. I've never ever had to say I now have to agree with you guys. Teets tells me it's going to happen someday, but I don't see it. Do you like Tampa Bay here too, Sam?
What about Andy Reid? I mean, good football.
What about Andy Reid? That's all you got. And you never once came on here and said Andy Reid's winning the Super Bowl. You would have to come on and say Andy Reid was winning the Super Bowl for me to be wrong and you right. It was just me wrong, you wrong. Sound like the caveman NFL show there. So you go with Tampa Bay also, Teets?
You know what? I'll lean towards. I'll give New Orleans 1 game over Tampa Bay. Whatever Tampa Bay wins, I think New Orleans can get 1 more game. But then I think Tampa Bay is going to go farther in the playoffs than New Orleans. I think New Orleans is a regular season team. They'll excel when they need to during the 17 weeks of the regular season. Then once they get to the playoffs, Tampa Bay will show its true colors and be much better.
All right. Do you want to talk any NFL news today, Sam Teets?
Yeah, we'll go with Washington. Washington has cut Adrian Peterson. Now, Peterson was very successful last year after they got rid of Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden was holding him back. He was holding the running game back and that whole offense back in general. Like, got rid of Jay Gruden. Adrian Peterson looked much better. Would have had well over 1,000 yards if not for the first couple of weeks he spent under Jay Gruden. Can you guys see him landing anywhere? I mean, he's 35 years old at this point, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know if he necessarily fits, but where do you think he would be? Where do you think he might go?
Well, I mean, he did have a good season last year. I could see he could finish up with the Detroit Lions. That way they'd have somebody that played their career past the age of 30.
Man, the Lions are screwed every year. You might as well forget any hope ever. If there's anybody that thinks there's somehow hope anywhere, who's listening?
Well, does anybody think that there's a bigger issue in Washington still with this Washington football team? I mean, did you see the new allegations that have come back out about more sexual harassment, Sam Teets?
Yeah, and they're more pointedly directed at Dan Snyder this time. I know Snyder was kind of in the background for last reports. He's more in the foreground for this one. So I'd be curious. The NFL has taken over the investigation into Washington's culture. As of right now, if reports are that there's no real concern that he'll have to sell the team. But I'd be interested. If this goes much further, I think there'd start being a significant chance that he would have to be forced out.
Well, I mean, when you hear these allegations, you've got some of these women even that intern with the organization, had players even follow them to the car. I think at some point this has to fall on Daniel Snyder. And if this was a player, they would get rid of the player right away. So I don't know. What do you think, Sam McGinnis? Do you think Daniel Snyder's days are numbered here?
Whether they should be and whether they are might be the equation here. Should they be numbered? Yeah. Will they be? I don't know. There seems to be way more tolerance. The NFL kind of has a whatever we can get away with kind of policy. And I wouldn't be surprised to hear about many more owners and other players having problems with this sort of thing, but the NFL is just better at covering it up, or players or owners are just better at covering up than in these cases.
Yeah, but I think in this case, I don't think Daniel Snyder is well liked, Sam Teets. So I think it's possible that maybe this can end him, especially in the climate we live in today.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to be honest, if he does get kicked out, I mean, I think it's probably for the better for the NFL at this point. It really would be. It'd be better for the organization. It'd be better for the league. So I'm all for kind of, if we're going to kick him out, I'm fine with that. I don't think you can avoid putting blame on the owner of a football team because his organization has a toxic culture. It just does. And he's had toxic players in the locker room as well in the past. It's not just necessarily the non-football personnel. So there's a lot of issues there in Washington. I think Dan Snyder deserves most of the blame for those issues, and I think he's avoided it so far because he's a billionaire.
All right. Anything else, Sam Teets?
I think that covers most things. My one final question for both of you, though. Who do you think is a better supporting cast in terms of offensive receivers, running backs, stuff like that? Is it Tampa Bay or is it New Orleans? Which one has a better supporting cast?
It's Tampa Bay. That's why I picked them to win it. I mean, you got 3 legit tight ends. You got a wide receiver duo that may not be quite as good as Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, but Emmanuel Sanders is getting up there in age. I think Michael Thomas might be the best wide receiver in football. But then I look on the other side. If Leonard Fournette is healthy, I think he's a better running back than Alvin Kamara. We don't know if he'll stay healthy, but I think maybe not being in Jacksonville may make him slightly healthier, if you know what I mean. But Sam McGinnis?
I might actually go with the opposite, but that's not why I picked them. I picked Tampa Bay because of Tom Brady versus Drew Brees equation, and with Drew Brees falling off a cliff, that doesn't really help. But yeah, I think Michael Thomas is the best receiver out of the top 4 of both teams. If you combine those, I think Alvin Kamara may be better than Leonard Fournette. I think the offensive line might also be better, but in the long story short, for me, it's the Tom Brady versus Drew Brees equation, and what we've seen from the Saints in the postseason really doesn't. Like your equation where you were talking about how the Saints might win another game, I wouldn't be surprised to see that either. But Tampa Bay going further in the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised to see that either as well. So I think Tampa Bay is the better team here, either way you look at it, but it's not necessarily because of a supporting cast. Not to say
I think When you're looking at offensive players, though, I think that I swing to Tom Brady just because of the tight end position. Because there's a lot of teams that don't have. There's a lot of teams that don't have a number one guy as good as Tampa Bay's number 3 guy.
Well, yeah, and from watching him in New England, Tom Brady knows how to abuse that tight end spot. Because you saw it in New England. He loves tight ends, and he's great at working them and finding openings. So I think it's a perfect combination. They've got 3 starting tight ends in Tampa Bay, and Tom Brady's going to use every one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, it gives them a lot more things they can do offensively. They could even come out in a 3 tight end set. They're going to look like they're running the ball, and the next thing you know, they're running 3 verticals with their tight ends. I mean, what they could do here, and the thing is, you've got Bruce Arians, who is a great offensive mind as a football coach. Just look at what he did, Sam, in Pittsburgh with your Steelers. And
yeah, I mean,
he got the Arizona Cardinals to the championship game. He revitalized, rejuvenated Carson Palmer's career. I mean, this is a guy that can coach some offensive football. And when you put him there, Sean Payton is too. But once again, as Sam McGinnis said, there's a big difference between Tom Brady and Drew Brees. But there's a big difference between Tom Brady and about anybody that's ever played the game of football outside of Joe Montana.
Well, yeah, and you're talking about Bruce Arians. We've seen Bruce Arians down in Pittsburgh, in Indianapolis, and Arizona, and there's always good quarterback play that follows him. And now he's going to Tampa Bay with this loaded offense and Tom Brady. I think we know what Sean Payton and Drew Brees are at this point. We don't know what Bruce Arians and Tom Brady are, and I would assume that Arians and Brady are going to be better than Brees and Peyton.
And a lot of people talk about how with the shortened offseason this affects Brady. But I think since Bruce Arians is such a good coach, I'd imagine he sat down with Tom Brady and basically asked Tom Brady what he wanted to do. I mean, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's Tom Brady. I mean, he's your star player. He's one of the greatest football minds there is currently as a player. You might as well sit down and work something out with him.
And I don't think Bruce Arians is one of these huge ego guys where it's got to be his way. I mean, I think what you find with the best coaches, I guarantee you in New England, Tom Brady had say on how that offense was run. It wasn't Josh McDaniels. It was Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And really good coaches will trust their players, and it's really easy to trust a guy like Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady never gets dehydrated during practice.
Yeah, Tom Brady takes care of himself.
I had to do it once, Sam. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I should have known.
No, you should have drank some dang water on Monday.
Granted.
All right. Anything else, Sam Teets?
No, I think we covered everything now.
All right. Well, since we've covered everything, what division you want to do next and when you want to do it?
We can go on Monday. Let's go AFC East. Let's go talk about New England Patriots, and we'll cover the AFC East.
I may not be able to do Monday unless it's in the evening.
Yeah, okay, we can work on something. I'll text you between now and then. We'll figure it out.
All right, but we'll look at maybe Monday evening. Sam, if you want, you can come back as long as you play well tonight.
All right, let's go.
I don't want to have to replace you with Will on the show, so you need to get your job back. All right, guys, you can follow Sam McGinnis at
Samuel McGee 22.
And you can follow Sam Teets at Sam Teets 33, correct?
Correct.
You can follow me at Grueling Truth. Make sure you read all of our articles. Check out all of our podcasts at gruelingtruth.com. Also on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. Also, check out our presenting sponsor for the NFL show, Replenishing Care and Technologies. Make sure you check them out at rcandt.com. So for now, for Sam McGinnis, Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.